All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Finance and Supply Chain in Focus. Today, I am super excited to show you this one, how you can talk to your ERP with Copilot and specifically Copilot Cowork. So this is a new feature that Microsoft has now, and really we're going to talk all about where it sits in the stack, what it's actually doing, and maybe clear up some of the misconceptions out there, because there are a lot of misconceptions on what is AI going to be able to do. Will it replace my ERP? And the answer is no. So spoiler alert. But before we do that, let's go ahead and jump in and start with some housekeeping items. So again, if you've been here before, you know the drill. We're going to have a copy of this recording available after the event. Same link, you'll be able to get access to the recording. We're going to take time for questions and comments throughout the session. Bree's helping me monitor the chat, so if I need to, I'll pop in and answer any questions. And then, went too far, too fast. At the end, we are going to have a survey. We appreciate your feedback. Anything that you can give us helps us drive this content in this series forward. So if there's anything that you want to see in the future, anything that you want to dive into, please feel free, fill that out, let us know. We're happy to dig into that. For those of you who maybe have not been here before, my name is Joe Tews. I'm a pre-sales architect. I've got over 19 years in the Dynamics community. I started my journey way back on Dynamics GP. I then spent about 5 years doing support for Dynamics AX at Microsoft, another 5 years doing solution architecting at Microsoft, and I've been at Stone Ridge coming up on 3 years now. Started off on the support side, and I'm in a pre-sales role here. But without further ado, let's get into the topic of the hour, and that is conversational ERP with Cowork. How we can query our financial data or even let Copilot help us enter transactions all in plain language. So you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to know how to interact with your ERP anymore. And that's both scary and exciting. So before we dig into that, let's ground ourselves. If you've never heard of Cowork before, which I'm sure all of you have heard of Copilot, but maybe not so much Cowork. And so what is Cowork? It's an agentic AI orchestrator that is built into Microsoft 365 Cowork. And what does that mean? Well, it really allows us to take action across our apps instead of just asking questions, having it be that conversational chatbot experience, for example. So again, it doesn't just give you answers. You can give it a prompt and it can build decks. It actually built this deck. Spoiler. It can help you to analyze spreadsheets, draft emails, schedule any recurring work that you have. Cowork is connected to WorkIQ, so it can reach into the data beyond. So not just looking at Outlook, but it can look into the data behind Outlook, behind Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Teams, SharePoint. All of that is enabled through Cowork. It's powered by Claude. So Anthropic is the creator of Claude, and they actually created their own Cowork, and so we're actually leveraging that, but we're using it at an enterprise scale. But if you haven't used Claude, if you haven't used anything with Anthropic before, give it a try. I personally love it. It's one of my favorite models to help me with some of my personal engagement. So we're powered by a very powerful, very potent model. And you can actually access it today through the Frontier Early Access program. So if you wanted to play around with Cowork, highly recommend you reach out to your system admins to enable the Frontier features within Microsoft 365. The other thing I wanted to ground us on, so that was Cowork. There's another concept that is really needed in order to have this interaction with Dynamics data, and that is MCP, or Model Context Protocol. This is really kind of that encyclopedia or dictionary, or it's the way that we tell Copilot and Cowork what the business application is. So if you've ever done any kind of development or any kind of technical architecting with finance and operations, you'll know that it's kind of a mess if you don't understand what you're doing back there, because there are there is X++ code in Dynamics 365. There is, C code in D365. There is SQL Server. All of that reaches together and ties in and somehow gives us our business data. Well, all the MCP is we're really telling Cowork what we did. We're just showing our work to it. One thing to note here, again, Microsoft runs on trust. When I was at Microsoft, that was, beat into our heads, but it's true. And one thing to note with the way that Cowork works for all of my system admins who happen to be tuning in today, MCP is going to respect your D365 permission. So it is essentially acting on your behalf in order to get the information that you're looking to see. You can only see and touch the data and actions that your user is allowed to. So again, there's three different kinds of tools that the MCP server exposes. We have read tools, so we can do read, update, delete records through our F&O data entities. It has form tools. It's actually really cool. I'm going to see if I can get Cowork to do it for you live here. But if it can't find a way to get something through a data tool, it'll actually navigate through the form itself. So you'll see it saying, oh, I'm going to go to my release product details, and I'm going to gather the information that I need from here. And so it's actually like clicking through D365. And then we can also invoke that custom business logic. So if our developers have built something, custom within our finance and supply chain environment, we can invoke that custom business logic and expose that to the MCP server. So what does all this mean? Well, when we utilize Cowork and the MCP server, we're essentially taking the traditional way of accessing our ERP data. So we would have to go in through a web interface to get our forms, our dashboards, our reports, everything within a browser. That browser is actually navigating, if you don't know, it's navigating back to an application object server. It's an AOS server that sits in the background that has all of our business logic built into it. So all the business logic that we've built up over the 30 plus years that DamGuard and AX and D365 have been a thing. All of that business logic, those workflows, that security, everything is processed through the AOS layer. And then finally, it gets back to our data layer. So where our data actually resides is in an Azure SQL database. And so there's been some misconceptions, that AI is going to replace all SaaS offerings and AI is going to replace everything. It can even act as your ERP server. No, unfortunately, AI is really good at understanding information. It's not good at storing information. We still need that back end. We still need the business logic. We still need all of that to kind of control and have good controls in place. Because right now, if you were to ask AI to store sensitive business information, it's not going to be great because it doesn't have a place to store it. It doesn't have any persistent memory. So we still need some of that back end information. So what are we truly doing? Well, we're really replacing that web interface with our Cowork. And Cowork is enabled through the MCP server. So we can have these natural language queries. We can have our actions, our workflows, the things that we do normally to interact with our ERP. We are now able to do that through Cowork. I've even built an agent that can run in Teams, so I can ask Teams chat to connect through the MCP server. But we're really just replacing that web interface. So that's really all we're doing here. But it does unlock so much more potential because we can ask it to go and do things on our behalf. So again, we're still keeping that AOS layer. We're still keeping our business logic. We're still keeping our Azure SQL database. We're just changing the way that we're interacting with that data within D365. So again, more features or more ways that Cowork allows us to be better with D365. we can ask it questions and we can get answers back in plain language. You don't have to go build something. You don't have to go view a configuration. You can just ask it what you're looking for, and it can give you that information. We can also blend this information together, so we can have our ERP data. We can utilize additional context through email, through documents, through Excel. We can have all of that in a single prompt, and we can get all of the information that we're looking for. We can run end-to-end workflows, so we can evaluate those RFQ bids that maybe we're talking about in D365, and we can summarize client data across ERP and CRM. I know Eric Newell has actually done that internally here. He's been able to take some of the CRM data that we have and blend it together with ERP data to get a full picture of our customer information. And, we're able to do it in minutes, not hours. So I can ask a prompt, for example here, give me my 60-day past due invoices, and boom, in about 2 minutes, I've got a chart with all of my 60-day past invoices. Now, the availability, you can actually turn this on today. So if you are part of a Frontier organization, you can turn on Cowork. You can also turn on the finance and operations and the CRM connectors. Business Central within the next few months, but this is F&SCM in focus, so the ones we care about are turned on. The other thing that we can do here is we have the ability to ask our data and act on it. So we can do regular prompts. These are just some of the prompts that we can do. We can also act on these. So I think really the best way to do that is to dive in and just show you some of the things that we can do with Cowork in D365. So before we get into that, part of the F&SCM in Focus series, I want to actually show you how you can get this on in your environment. So from the admin and server side, there are 4 steps that you need to do. If you're not already a part of the Frontier program, you need to join that and then turn on Copilot Frontier. You do have to have your system admin help you with that, but it's just going to admin.microsoft.com and turning on the Copilot Frontier. And then you can dive into the F&SCM component of it. So we're going to go to feature management, and we're going to make sure that our ERP MCP server is enabled. And then we're going to make sure that Cowork is added as a client. Now, this client ID right here, and I'll make sure that it gets posted into the chat. This is the exact client ID that you need. You don't need to go find your client ID. It's this one, which seems counterintuitive, but it's this one. And then finally, in the Copilot app, once you have all of that enabled, now you can go into the Copilot app. You need to add the Cowork agent, turn on the ERP plugin, pick your environment. So pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and let's see how that all plays out here. So first thing I need to do is I need to go into D365, and this will be the last time we go into D365 today, because we are now working with a headless ERP. So let's go into finance and operations here, and let's make sure that we have that feature enabled and that we have our MCP server added to the allowed list. So we'll give it just a second here to pull up. And I've been in this all day, so I don't know why it's being slow on me right now, but we'll give it just a second to pull up here. All right. So now that we're in our finance and supply chain environment, we have to go into our feature management workspace. So under workspaces, we're going to go to our feature management workspace here. And just to make sure I get the right name here, let's make sure that we have this model context protocol server. If I typed in MCP, it wouldn't work. So let's go take a look at all of our features here. And we're going to just check the name. And we're going to make sure that it contains model context. So you can see here we've got this D365 ERP model context protocol server. We can see when we enabled it. Right now it is on by default, so you probably don't even have to enable it. But if it is disabled, you'll see a little enable button down here where my disable is. So that's the first step you have to do in D365. The second step is we have to add that MCP connection as an allowed client. So I'll go to allowed, and it'll pull up here. I'm going to go to my allowed MCP clients. If you're like me and you like to go through the actual menu items, it's just under System Admin and Setup. But I'm going to go here, and if I didn't have this already enabled, I would just add a new, and all you have to do is put in the name and the client ID and make sure that allowed is set to true. Those are really the important parts here. So you can see I've got my Cowork, I've got that client ID enabled here, and I've got it on true. So now I can actually go into my M365 app and I can start talking to my ERP. So let's just close this because, again, we're not going to go back into D365 today. So let's go into our M365 Copilot here. If you've not used the application, you can still access it through the web browser. You don't necessarily need to access it through the app, but I like to go through the app here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the Agents tab here. So if you click on Agents, you're going to see you have a whole bunch of agents that are available for you within D365. So you can take a look at the analyst agent. There's a researcher agent. We were actually just a little bit ago in our internal chat, we were talking about the prompt agent. So you can have an agent that'll help you build prompts. But all you got to do is find this Cowork Frontier agent, and it will appear if you have the Frontier capabilities enabled. And you just have to go and install. And it'll be a real quick and easy install. It'll just install it into D365 for you. But once you have that, all you got to do now is just go into Cowork, and it looks very similar to the way that the new chats work. So again, you're just going to message Copilot here, and let's start with something real simple. Can you give me a list of all of my purchase orders that were created in the last week? Right? Pretty easy. The one thing I missed is you do have to enable the plugin. So in Cowork, you are going to see that there is this Manage Plugins feature. So if I click on that, you'll see I have my customer service plugin. I also have my D365 ERP apps plugin. So make sure that you have this turned on, and there's a little configure icon next to it. Make sure you're connected to the correct environment. So you can see here, I've got a couple of different environments that I could connect to. This is the one that I need to be in order to ask the correct questions. So now that I've got my prompt typed in here, let's go ahead and send it, and let's let Copilot act on it. And Jeremy, I'm going to grab you the client ID in just a second here. Justin, is it available in Business Central, and what are the steps there? Unfortunately, it's not available in Business Central yet. Sometime in the next couple months, it will come to Business Central. So right now, it's just CRM and finance and supply chain. And you can see it working in the background there. I'll do that while I'm grabbing that client ID here. But this is really cool to me. You can see what it's actually doing. So it's going to try to find the data sources. So it's going to go to the purchase order entry and find the creation date. And since the creation date doesn't actually exist on the purchase order entity, now it's going to go and it's going to query additional purchase or additional purchase information. So it's going to try to find additional information on those purchase orders. And now you can see it's actually going and it's opening up the all purchase orders list page in USMF. So it's actually really cool that if it can't find it through a data backend, it's going to go in through the front end, and it's going to actually go to the different areas within D365. So it knows where to go there. And here's that client ID. There you go. That is the actual client ID that you need to post in there. So you can see that it's working in the background here, and it does take a little bit of time. Now I could have probably gone into D365, and I probably could have just filtered by the list of everything in the background. But just to kind of give you an idea of what you're able to do with the Cowork functionality here. So it's going through, it's pulling up a list here, and it's going to show me all of the information. And now you can see, all right, these are all of the purchase orders that I've created in the last week. I've created 13 of them, and it's even giving me some additional context around them. So you can see here that this is the requested receipt date, not a true creation timestamp. We don't necessarily have that data available to me. And we're only covering the USMF company. And the reason it knows that is because that's where I do all of my transacting. You could have it prompt you to ask what company you want it to actually appear in, or do you want to pull from a different company? And then, notice here it says, do you want me to drill into any specific order? So now I can actually say, all right, go ahead and let's pull up the details for PO. Let's do 2525. So again, you can just have this conversation, and it's going to open up the details for purchase order 2525. It's going to go into the entities. It's going to find the line items for that order, and it's going to pull all that information back for me. And it's going to help me analyze that information too. So that's one of the great things about Copilot. If you've used Copilot before, you can have it help you with some of that analysis. So it's really good at analyzing, all of the details that you've got. And really all it's doing here is it's just pulling in header information here. It's pulling in the line item details, and you can see all of the information that I have available within that purchase order. So now without having to go into D365, I was able to get that information back. But what if we could do more with this information? What if we could, actually have it create a purchase order, or we could maybe have it create a new item or something within D365? And that's really kind of where we start to get some of the more magic of Cowork within D365. So I need to create a new purchase order in USMF. The company is Acme Office Supplies, and I need to order 10 A001 HDMI cables. Order to Site 1, Warehouse 11. And this is a habit I've gotten into, but I've usually said ask any clarifying questions. All right, so now I've given it an input now. So I've said, go ahead, create a new purchase order for me. Here's the company name. I need to order 10 of these HDMI cables. I want to order them to Site 1, Warehouse 11. So you can see it popped up here. All right, I've got most of what I needed. If I hadn't specified Acme Office Supplies, or if I haven't specified the item, it might ask us to give that information. So you can see here it's going through and it's actually doing the process. So when do we want this receipt date? We're going to go ahead and say let's do it for 1 week out. And do we want to confirm the PO, or do we want to leave it as an open order? Let's go ahead and confirm it immediately, because we know we're gonna order those 10 items. So now it's going through and it's thinking here, and it's going to actually go through and it's going to create that new purchase order for us. And again, we haven't gone into D365 to do any of this. And you can track the thought process and the actions as it's going through on the side here. And it'll say, it's going to create the header, it's going to add the line, it's going to confirm the purchase order. So a lot of information that it's working on here. And we'll let that think for a second here, but I got one last thing I want to show. I've got a couple minutes here. So again, all of this is just being done with MCP, with Cowork, and it's kind of magical what's going on now. So it's going through, it's creating those that line for me within the data entities. If it couldn't find a data entity to do it, it would actually go through and it would do it on the front end of things. Just yesterday, I used this to create new items. I actually had it, I gave it a list of items that I wanted it to create with just the standard defaults, and it was able to go through and create those items for me. So you can see here, we've got the header created now, created that header for Acme Office Supplies. Now it's going to add that order line for me, and then it'll confirm the purchase order. So we'll give it just a little bit here because I kind of want to show that, but also I really want to show this last piece as well. All right, it's moving fast enough. I'll take any questions that you have in the chat while we're waiting for this to go through, and then I'll show you the last piece that I want. All right. So again, on the confirmation side of things, it's trying to find an API action. Can't do it that way. So now it's opening the form. So that's really cool what it's doing now. It's actually literally in the background. It's going through and it's opening the form in the background to confirm that. So it's got that new order. It's found the row. Now it's clicking on confirm. So again, if it's not something that is defined in some of the additional or some of the data entities or anything like that, it can actually go through and it can walk through the steps, very similar to like a task recording would have you do. So very cool what it can do in the background here. The time is it still takes a little bit of time, but again, we're still dealing with frontier models here. It's acting. It's taking its time to do that. Rohit, I see you have a question here. Can we use this to automate regression testing? Yeah, I would say that you could definitely use this to automate any of the regression testing that you have in your environment. So yeah, you can build some additional tasks. You can build some prompts. You could even, I haven't tried it yet, but I think you could probably utilize the task recordings. You could actually feed it into Cowork, and it could be able to run those through for you. So you can see here, I've got that item or that purchase order created. It's confirmed. I could go into D365 and I could pull that up, and we will. But first, I want to show you the last thing here. So I've actually created this prompt already. I'm cheating. I have it in here. So I'm just going to paste this in here, and all I'm doing now is so we've gathered information, we've input information, but what if we wanted to have it create a report for us? So I'm going to tell Cowork to create the Sankey style interactive visualization showing the cash movement from my customers through receivables into cash accounts. And I want this to do it for company USMF for the 2016 year. So I'm going to send that off, and I'm going to let Copilot or Cowork do that in the background. And let's go just confirm that purchase order got created. So we're going to go back into my pre-sale sandbox here, and we're going to go check out those POs and make sure that PO actually did get created. So if I go to my accounts payable, I look at my all purchase orders here, you can see I've actually got a new purchase order, 2575. I've created it for this A001 item, site 1, warehouse 11, 10 of those at the adjusted unit price of $12. So it did exactly what it said it was going to. Let's just make sure that it confirmed it. So let's go to the purchase tab here. Look at that. It is confirmed. So very, very powerful tool what Cowork can do for you here. So now it's reasoning in the background. It is executing any final tasks that it has to pull that information into a chart for us. But while it's doing that, I think I've got one last slide. Yep, just a thank you slide again. A session recording will be available after the event. There is some documentation available on the Copilot, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're excited about this new frontier technology. We're diving into it, and we would be happy to share with you what we've learned here. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And Bree has actually thrown something up in the window here. We are having a Modern Agriculture Technology Day. This is coming up in 3 weeks from today, actually, on June 24th. A lot of information on specifically around agriculture. So some of you might find this very useful, very something great to attend. You can click there and get a free pass to that. I am actually, Scott and I are going to be talking, Scott Frappier and I are going to be talking about AI and all the different uses of AI within agriculture. So we're going to have some fun with that. And looking forward to showing you all that we've got around technology within AI. So with that, I appreciate everyone being here today. I know we're all excited to see this report come up here, but you can see as we're going through, it's having some issues, so it's going to parse it in Python. But again, how cool is that? It's actually grabbing all of the raw data, it's parsing it through Python. We've got the data set here. We're going to gather all of that receivables data, and we're going to throw it into this Sankey style graph. So I am more than happy to hang out for a couple more minutes so that everyone can see it. But if you do have to drop off, I certainly can appreciate that as well. All right. Yep, it's still going here. It's thinking about it. And again, I showed this off one other time, and the question I got is, "Hey, this is really cool, but why would I spend time doing this when I could just create a report and be able to access that?" And for the most part, you are going to see that. We are likely going to take things like this that are easily repeatable, and they are going to be reports, and we are going to be able to just auto generate them without having Copilot go through and actually do that. But for those times when we don't have or we need a one-off report real quick, we have a board meeting coming up and we need to show some information, this is a great way to gather that information and present it to us. And I'm just doing a real simple example here. Again, you could have it go past all of the different applications that Cowork is tied into. You could have it go look at your meetings. You go have it look at Word documents, any documents that you have stored out in SharePoint. You could have it go look at your CRM data, and you could pull all of that together into any reporting that you're looking for, and you can do it on the fly. So that is sometimes the benefit of utilizing Cowork to do that on the fly. All right, so yeah, it's really I love seeing this thought process here. So it can't do Plotly, so it's going to go ahead and just generate its own run in the background here. Going to do it so that there's no external libraries and it works offline. So it's just generating it in the background here. Again, some more things that you can do with Cowork that I think are really cool. This entire slide deck that I used today, I had it help me create it. I had to do some massaging, and I did all the prompts for it, but it can go through and it can take all of the information that you need. It can even go out and look on the internet, and it can create those types of documents for you. So very cool what you can do with Cowork. All right, we're almost there. I can see that an output is in place. You can see here that it's got all of my aging buckets, all of my share. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like here. Look at that. Cowork created this for me. How cool is this? So it was able to show me all of my interactive details, and I can hover over all of these additional details here, and I can see how it flows into my check deposits, my other unspecified amounts. Like, look at how cool this is. And it took a little bit longer than I expected, but within 8 minutes, it was able to generate this for me based off of data that was in D365. So pretty darn cool what you can do with Cowork and your D365 data. So with that, any questions, anything I can help answer before we call it a day? But I was really excited to show you all this ones. Yep, I can share that prompt with you, Jeremy, absolutely. Let me see if I can copy it here. Nope, doesn't like it over there. I've got some weird things going on between my my virtual machine here, so I'll get that here out of my inbox. All right. Well, again, thank you everyone for joining today. I think this is really cool. Looking forward to the next phases here, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out at any time. Appreciate you joining, and tune in for the next month coming up here on July 1st, it looks like. So looking forward to seeing you all then. Thanks, everyone.